Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. Moving on the Subclass series today into the Arcane Archer Fighter. So if you're new to the series or to the channel, what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of the subclass abilities gained from the Arcane Archer and how those subclass abilities improve on the base class. We're going to rate the roleplay value, the combat value, and the overall class synergy, again, based on how these abilities are going to improve the base class. So without any further ado, we're just going to jump straight into it.
Level 3, you have Arcane Archer Lore. You get to choose between one of two skill proficiencies, either Arcana or Nature, and actually choose one of two cantrips, either Prestidigitation or Druidcraft. And to me, you'd either have Arcana and Prestidigitation or Nature and Druidcraft. It kind of makes sense to pair those two together, unless you're just trying to be weird because you're that kind of person. Fair enough, go for it. You also get the main mechanic of what this subclass is built around, your Arcane Shot. I'm going to read this because it's difficult word-wise, but then we'll shorthand it as far as that goes. So level 3, you learn to unleash special effects with some of your shots. When you gain this feature, you choose 2 Arcane Shot options of your choice. You get more later on. Once per turn, you fire a magic arrow from a short or long bow. As part of your attack action, you can apply one of your Arcane Shot options to that arrow. You decide to use this option when the arrow hits a creature, unless the option doesn't involve an attack. You choose you have 2 uses of this ability, and you regain all of the expended uses when you finish a short or long rest. You get additional Arcane Shot options of your choice when you reach level 7, 10, 15, and 18, so eventually you have a total of 6. And each of the options, as far as for your Arcane Shot arrows, improve once you hit level 18 Fighter. A lot of words there. Essentially, it's kind of like Paladin Smite and mechanics. You can wait to use your Arcane Shot once you know you've hit a creature. You have 2 choices of the 8 at level 7, and you get 1 more essentially every 3 levels from 7 on.
Then at level 7, we have Magic Arrow. So basically, you can infuse arrows with magic. Whenever you fire a non-magical arrow from your short or longbow, it becomes magical for the purposes of overcoming resistances to non-magical attacks. As soon as the arrow hits or misses, it loses the magical essence, so someone can't pick it back up and fire it back at you if you have resistance to magic, non-magical damage, for example.
Right.
And again, we're going to go over all the arrows here once we get through all the class abilities. Also, we get Curving Shot. You learn how to direct an errant arrow. So basically, what happens is when you make an attack roll with a magic arrow and miss, you can use a bonus action to re-roll the attack roll against a different target within 60 feet of the original target. So you get basically a second chance to hit something else. Then at level 15, we get Ever Ready Shot. Your magical archery is available when battle starts. If you start combat, roll initiative, and you have no uses of Arcane Shot remaining, you gain 1 use of it. So you always, once you hit level 15, you're always going to have at least 1 Arcane Shot available in every combat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of the Arcane Shot options that you get to choose from. Again, you get 2 at level 3, then a 3rd at 7, 4th at 10, 5th at 15, and 6th at level 18.
First of all, you get is Banishing Arrow. Creatures hit by the arrow must succeed a Charisma saving throw or be banished. While it's banished this way, the target speed is 0. It is incapacitated. At the end of its next turn, the target reappears in the space it vacated or nearest unoccupied space. Once you hit level 18, this also does 2d6 force damage as part of it. So Charisma saving throw or banishment spell, but just for a turn. No concentration, just make them skip a turn essentially.
Beguiling Arrow. The creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 psychic damage, and choose one of your allies within 30 feet of the target. Target must succeed a wisdom saving throw, or is charmed by the chosen ally until the start of your next turn. So basically, it's Cupid's arrow. You shoot somebody, and then your ally is charmed by your ally. The effect ends early if the chosen ally attacks the charmed target, deals damage to it, or forces it to make a saving throw. At level 18, the damage increases to 46. And again, for the proficiency saves on here, for the saving throw, DCs is going to be 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier.
Bursting Arrow sounds about what it is. After you hit a creature, the target itself and all other creatures take within 10 feet, take 2d6 force damage. That increases to 46. So that one actually, there is no saving throw for. It's just, it hits something and it blows up and everybody takes a little extra damage, just 2d6 and then to 4d6 force damage.
Another option is Enfeebling Arrow. Creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 necrotic damage. Target must make a Constitution saving throw, or the damage dealt by its next weapon attack is halved until the start of your next turn. It increases to 46 when you hit level 18 as well.
Grasping Arrow, probably our personal favorite of the lot. When the target is hit, it's a poisonous brambles. It's hard to say. Poisonous brambles wrap around the target. Creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 poison damage, has its speed reduced by 10 feet. It takes 2d6 slashing damage the first time on each of its turns it moves 1 foot or more, plurals, 1 foot or more without teleporting. The target or any creature that can reach it can use an action to remove the brambles with a successful athletics check against your arcane shot save DC. Otherwise, the brambles last for 1 minute or until you use the option again. Damage goes up to 4d6. So essentially, you hit them for 2d6 poison damage. That's guaranteed. And there is no saving throw. They take if they're start of their turn, they try to move. They take an extra 2d6 slashing damage, and they move at all every turn for up to a minute, unless them or somebody else spends an action to try to remove the brambles. And it's still a saving throw.
It's not guaranteed. That's a check. So if
it's
they
still
fail
an athletics check against it. So if you have
wasted their action,
right, some weak little thing tries to pull the brambles off, they may have wasted their turn trying to help out their friend, and it may have not. So to us, probably the best option of the 8.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the better ones. Then we also have Piercing Arrow. When you use this option, you don't make an attack roll for the attack. Instead, you shoot an arrow that goes through cover. It's 1 foot wide and 30 feet long. And what it does is it passes through objects, ignoring cover. Each creature in the line must make a dex save, taking damage as if it were hit by the arrow, plus 1d6 piercing damage. On a successful save, the target takes half as much damage. So, and it increases to 2d6 when you reach 18. So just a kind of way to get around cover, basically, if you want to try to hit somebody.
Yeah, it made multiple people in a line. Seeking Arrow is another option. You can use Divination Magic. When you use this option, you do not make an attack roll. Instead, choose one creature that you have seen in the past minute. The arrow flies toward that creature, moving around corners and ignoring 3/4 or half cover. The target is within range, and there's a path large enough for the arrow to travel through. The target must make a dexterity saving throw. Otherwise, the arrow disappears after traveling as far as it can on a failed save. The target takes force damage if it were hit by the arrow, plus an extra 1d6 force damage, and you learn the target's location. If they succeed on the save, they take half damage. You don't learn the location. And again, that damage goes up to 2d6 force damage at level 18. So essentially, this becomes most effective in a chase scene. Something's trying to hide from you. You saw it, and you lost line of sight on it, but you saw it in the last 10 turns. You can just fire the shot as long as they didn't go through a door and close the door behind them. If they're just hiding in a bush or hiding in a tree, the arrow's going to hit them, and you're going to know exactly where they're at. Kind of like a built-in hunter's mark, right behind an arrow.
And then last option we have is Shadow Arrow, another one of our favorites. Creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 psychic damage, must make a wisdom saving throw or be unable to see anything farther than 5 feet away from it until the start of your next turn. At level 18, increases to 4d6 psychic damage. So lots of options here. There's 8 total options. By level 18, you're going to get 6 of them. So you got to choose a little bit wisely here. But what we're going to do now is we're going to jump straight into the rating section, and then we'll discuss the efficiency of these arrows when we get to the combat part of it. Right. So first up is the roleplay value. And again, when we're talking about roleplay value, we're talking about interacting with the world, interacting with NPCs, avoiding combat or non-combat encounters, not necessarily looking at background or lore, history, things like that. So how these subclass abilities improve your RP potential outside of just, your character background. So with this, if you look at all the abilities, the only ability that's going to give you any kind of proficiency or anything that's not combat related is going to be the Arcane Archer lore, which is your Nature Arcana skill and Prestidigitation or Druidcraft cantrip. So because of that, there's some very niche uses. If you wanted to, say, use Beguiling Arrow to charm somebody, or Shadow Arrow to run past someone so they can't see you, there's some little bit of niche uses there. So we went ahead and gave it a 1.5 out of 5 for the RP, just because there's not a whole lot of very useful things, options that you have available to you on the RP side of things.
On the combat side of things, look at what the base fighter does. And essentially, because you're probably the most simple of all the classes and mechanics, you do get the 3rd round of extra attack for a total of 4 attack, which you hit 20. But for the longest time, you've only hit 11, and there's a huge amount of time between 11 and 20 in a grand majority of campaigns. And Jameson found a very interesting stat of the day that a ridiculously high percentage of campaigns never hit level 20. So really, you're thinking, okay, you're going to have 3 attacks instead of 2, as opposed to like what a ranger, paladin, barbarian might have. You're going to have 3 attacks, and 1 more attack than they would. So you're going to have 3 attacks a turn. You can redirect some of your arrows, which is probably one of the more useful abilities because there's no limits to it. So if you do miss, you can try to redirect it to somebody else as a bonus action.
Right.
Because your bonus action is only going to be your...
you're not going to have a whole lot of options as a fighter.
Yeah, you got your action surge and your second wind. I mean, that's it. And those are limited uses for a day kind of thing. So you can't just do those over and over again. So you're going to be using your magic arrow in case you do miss. Your curving arrow most of the time if you do miss. You do have a lot of options as far as number when it comes to the efficiency of these arrows. But unfortunately, we think a lot of them aren't super great because the damage isn't either super substantial. Because doing an extra 2d6 that's not bad at level
early on. It's not that bad.
Level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even 8 or 9. That's not too bad. But it doesn't scale up to 2d6 extra damage until you hit level 18. So you're doing 4d6 damage at level 18.
And you only get 2 shots per combat.
Yeah, keep in mind that's a level 1 spell for a lot of spellcasters. They can do that over and over and over and over.
And another comparison I like to make too is if you just picked like a dueling fighter and used a greatsword or something, then you're doing 2d6 for every attack.
Right.
Versus doing 1d8 or whatever with your bow. So another thing to keep in mind there.
So overall, score-wise, we gave this a 3. You do have a lot of options, and there are some interesting options. But as far as the overall, I guess, potency of the abilities that you have access to, it's a less impressive ranger in terms you don't get spell slots access to there, and you can't really do the amount of damage you could do if you had a great sword or a great axe in hand-to-hand combat like all the other subclasses of fighter can do.
There's some things too you can do, like you can take sharpshooter and stuff to give you some chances to buff up, and if you miss, you can redirect it.
Sure.
So there's some good kind of interesting things you can do there that makes it not super painful. But a lot of the options are very lackluster. I think is a good option here, and the thing too is, like some of your better arrow options, I think Grasping Arrow is going to be almost always good because someone's going to have to use an action at some point, and it does essentially the same thing as the Banishing Arrow. Though Banishing Arrow is also good because when you banish someone from combat, you could already have actions, and then when he reappears at the next turn, you just lay him to waste completely. Or you can just take a turn to heal up or whatever, or maybe kill something else. Yeah. If you get rid of a cat, some big guys, you can focus on a caster or something. There's ways that you can use it efficiently. Bursting Arrow early on is probably going to be good because you're fighting smaller things, so doing that extra damage is probably going to be good because it's guaranteed. There's no save for it. They just take it if they're nearby. But the rest of them are very niche use, I would say. I mean, you could maybe use Shadow Arrow or like I said, Beguiling Arrow as kind of like RP senses if you want to try to avoid combats, things like that can be done.
Seeking Arrow helps if you're trying to chase after something. Like there's some interesting, unique uses as far as that goes, but besides that, lackluster is a really good word for a lot of the abilities.
And I think one last thing to say about the combat side is I think this subclass is probably best used as a multi-class, not as a full. You probably don't want to put 20 levels into this because it's not super. The numbers don't fit super well. Yeah, at 18 you get that bonus there, but you're mostly using your arrows for utility, not necessarily for the damage. Yeah. Because if you multi-class into like rogue or something per se, you're gonna get sneak attack and stuff like that probably. So. There's other ways to mitigate that loss of damage from the level 18 abilities, while still getting the main use by level 11. You're going to have pretty much everything. Just your third attack by level 11 as a base fighter, so that's probably your best option. And finally, our synergy section. Fighter's more interesting because a lot of the base fighter abilities literally work with everything. The fact that you get more extra attacks than either base class do. Second wind is just extra health. It helps out everybody. All the other fighter abilities really they work well with specifically. It's not like, this subclass works better with it. Not really. Yeah. In fact, at least you do have archery as a fighting style, so obviously that works with it as well. But outside of that, you look at the downsides of kind of what we do, the combat-related thing of you can't do as much damage in this form as you could just being any of the other fighter subclasses and picking a bigger melee weapon because you still have the same number of extra attacks. Yeah. And you can get in there and do some of the other abilities that you would have access to. Right. So we decided to go with 3 out of 5 here for the synergy, just because as it kind of works with, I think Cleric was the same kind of way where kind of everything synergizes. Right. So it's not really fair to give it a low synergy or not really fair to give it a 1 or a 5 because all of them are pretty equally affected by. Every subclass is going to get a bonus from Action Surge and Second Wind and their fighting style and stuff. Yep. So It's just nothing major that's going to push those things to be super broken.
Right.
That it wouldn't be otherwise broken in any other subclass.
Right.
But also nothing that's really hindering it either. So right down the middle of the road with a balance 3. So 1.5, 3, 3 for our ratings for the Arcane Archer. Like I said, we talked about this a little bit beforehand. I think it works better as a multi-class option than a full level 20. If you actually make it to 20, if you don't make it to 20, it's not that big a deal. You're probably going to get most of your load front end wise. So by level 7, you have 4 of your 5 abilities.
Right.
So there's that. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this one today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications when our new videos come out. Let us know down in the comments below if you've played as an Arcane Archer or played with one, or if you have any other thoughts about D&D or any stories like that. We'd always love to hear that, so let us know down below. And as always, thanks for watching.